The boardroom door swung open with a soft whoosh. And there he was, Mark Sullivan, striding in like he owned the air itself. He didn't glance my way, didn't register the figure bent over the conference table, wiping down the surface with a microfiber cloth. "Hey, clean this up quick," he barked, tossing his leather briefcase onto a chair without breaking stride. "We've got a big meeting in 5. Make it shine." His voice carried that effortless entitlement, the kind polished by Ivy League halls and Daddy's trust fund. I paused, cloth in hand, feeling the words land like a slap of cold wind. But I didn't straighten up right away.
No.
I finished the swipe across the table, slow and deliberate, letting the silence stretch just a beat too long. Mark was already at the head of the table, scrolling through his phone, oblivious. He assumed I was the help, the invisible kind that fades into the background of corporate America.
And why wouldn't he?
My plain button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up, khaki pants, and practical sneakers screamed maintenance to a guy like him. But assumptions? They're the cracks in the foundation that bring down empires. I stood then, folding the cloth neatly and tucking it into my back pocket. The room was pristine now, every surface gleaming under the fluorescent lights of this high-rise office in downtown Chicago. I'd been here before dawn, not just to clean, but to set up the projector, calibrate the screens, and double-check the data feeds. Because this wasn't just any meeting. This was the quarterly strategy session where numbers didn't lie, and careers hung in the balance. I walked to the door, passing Mark without a word. He finally looked up, brows furrowed in mild confusion, but I was already gone, heading down the hall to my actual office, tucked away in the strategy wing, where the real power hummed quietly behind closed doors. By the time I returned, the room was filling up. Executives in tailored suits, laptops open, coffee cups steaming. CFO Laura Bennett gave me a subtle nod as I slipped in, taking my seat at the side, not the head. Not yet. Mark launched into his spiel without preamble, his voice booming with that false confidence. "All right, team, let's dive into Q1 results. We've crushed it on revenue enablement. My new initiative is paying off big time." He clicked through slides, graphs spiking upward like they were defying gravity. But I knew better. I'd crunched those numbers myself, cross-referenced with client logs and internal audits. The spikes were illusions, built on shortcuts and unchecked spending. As he droned on about synergistic growth and agile pivots, I felt the tension coil in my chest, slow and steady, like a spring being wound. When it was my turn, I stood without fanfare. "If I may," I said calmly, connecting my laptop to the projector. The screen flickered to life, displaying my deck, not the polished, buzzword-heavy one Mark had shared, but the raw truth. Let's examine the actuals behind these projections. The room shifted, chairs creaking as people leaned forward. I highlighted the first red flag, a 15% dip in client retention tied directly to Mark's fast-track onboarding program. Clients reported confusion, delays in support, and mismatched expectations. I explained, my voice even, letting the data do the heavy lifting. Mark chuckled from his seat, trying to play it off. "Come on, Alex. That's just growing pains. We're scaling aggressively here." But his laugh fell flat, echoing in the growing quiet. I didn't argue. I just advanced the slide, revealing the cost overruns, $1.8 million in unapproved vendor contracts. All signed off by Mark without looping in finance. Whispers rippled through the room. Laura's eyes narrowed, her pen tapping rhythmically against her notepad. "These variances aren't anomalies," I continued. "They're patterns. Bypassed protocols leading to friction, lost trust, and potential compliance risks. Mark's face tightened, his casual posture stiffening. He leaned forward, interrupting. Hold up, this data must be outdated. My team verified everything last week. I met his gaze steadily. This is live from the CRM. Audited yesterday. Feel free to cross-check. He opened his mouth, then closed it, color rising in his cheeks. The spring was winding tighter now, the air thick with unspoken realizations. No one else spoke up for him. They were too busy absorbing the truth I'd laid bare, piece by irrefutable piece. As I wrapped up, outlining remediation steps, restructured approvals, tighter budgets, and accountability metrics, the board members exchanged glances. Laura cleared her throat. Alex, your analysis is spot on. We'll need to discuss implementation immediately. Mark tried to interject again, his voice pitching higher. Wait. This overlooks the big picture, my vision for, but Laura cut him off with a raised hand. The big picture includes the details.
Mark.
And right now, they're painting a concerning portrait. He sank back, defeated for the moment, but I could see the storm brewing in his eyes. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. As the meeting adjourned, people filed out, murmuring about the eye-opener. Mark lingered, shooting me a glare that could curdle milk. But I just packed up my things, calm as ever, feeling the first hints of release in that coiled tension. He'd underestimated me once. He wouldn't get a second chance. The aftermath hit like a slow-building wave. Mark didn't confront me directly, not at first. Instead, he slithered through the office grapevine, whispering doubts in break rooms and over Slack. Who does Alex think he is? Undermining the team like that, he'd say to anyone who'd listen. But the tide was turning. People who'd once dismissed me as the quiet analyst now sought my input on reports, looping me into emails with Alex's thoughts in the subject line. I didn't gloat. I just did the work. Same as always, digging into logs, tracing inefficiencies, building cases with cold, hard facts. 2 days later, an urgent email from Laura landed in my inbox. Meet in my office.
Now.
I arrived to find her poring over a stack of printouts, my slides, annotated with her own notes. This goes deeper than Q1, she said without preamble. Mark's initiatives have exposed us to audit risks. We need a full review. I nodded, already knowing where this led. Over the next hours, we dissected everything: his rushed vendor deals, the skipped compliance checks, the inflated projections that masked real losses. By evening, we drafted a memo for the board, neutral, factual, devastating. Mark, sensing the noose tightening, amped up his defense. He scheduled clarification meetings, bombarding calendars with invites. I declined politely, citing prior commitments. He cornered me in the hallway once, his face inches from mine. You think you're clever?
Huh.
Playing gotcha with my data? His breath was hot, laced with desperation. I stepped back calmly. It's not your data,
Mark.
It's the company's. And it doesn't lie. He stormed off, but not before muttering threats about role clarity and HR complaints. Little did he know, HR was already in the loop, thanks to Laura's foresight. The tension dinned through the office like a low hum. Colleagues avoided Mark's gaze. Conversations hushed when he approached. I felt it too, the emotional weight of it all, the quiet fury at being reduced to a stereotype, the satisfaction of truth emerging. But I kept my head down, focusing on the rebuild, new protocols, streamlined processes, all designed to prevent another Mark-shaped disaster. As the week wore on, the wave crested, ready to crash. And when it did, it would wash away the illusions, leaving only the stark reality behind. The board convened in a smaller room this time, away from prying eyes, the kind of space reserved for decisions that reshape org charts. I was there, seated quietly, my report in hand. Mark wasn't invited, but rumors had him pacing the lobby downstairs, phone glued to his ear, probably calling in favors from old frat buddies. Laura opened with the memo we'd crafted. "We've identified systemic issues in revenue strategy," she stated flatly. "Unauthorized expenditures, client churn linked to unvetted pilots, and a clear disregard for protocols." The board members nodded gravely, flipping through their copies. One, an older exec from the parent firm in New York, leaned forward. "And the root cause?" Laura glanced at me. "Alex." I laid it out methodically, slide by slide on the shared screen. "It traces back to leadership gaps. Approvals bypassed. Budgets inflated without justification. Here's the trail. 3 vendors on board without bids, costing an extra $450,000. Client feedback logs show confusion from Mark's Delta program, leading to 4 lost accounts, $2.1 million in projected revenue gone." The numbers hung in the air, heavy and unyielding. No one defended him. The New York exec sighed. "This borders on negligence." Recommendations. I didn't hesitate. Immediate audit, role realignment, and interim oversight to stabilize. They murmured agreement, the decision crystallizing in real time. Outside, Mark's world was unraveling thread by thread. His Slack messages went unanswered, his emails buried in inboxes. He tried rallying his team, a loose group of yes-men, but even they distanced themselves, citing workload. I overheard one in the kitchen. "Dude, Alex's report is ironclad. Mark's toast." The emotional undercurrent was palpable, the schadenfreude mixed with unease, the office politics shifting like sand. For me, it was vindication, but bittersweet. I'd started here years ago as a junior analyst, cleaning up data messes while others took credit.
Now,
The tables had turned, literally. By midday, HR summoned Mark to a closed-door meeting. I wasn't there, but the walls in that old building were thin. Raised voices filtered through, his denials, their calm rebuttals. "This is a witch hunt," he shouted at one point. "But facts don't bend to bluster." He emerged red-faced, storming to his desk to pack up. Though pack was generous, it was more like shoving papers into a bag with frantic energy. Colleagues averted eyes, the awkwardness thick as fog. He paused at my cubicle on his way out, glaring. "You happy now? Think you're the hero?" I looked up slowly. "It's not about heroes,
Mark.
it's about accountability." He huffed and left, the elevator ding marking his exit like a period at the end of a sentence. The office exhaled in his absence. Meetings ran smoother. Decisions stuck without the drama. Laura pulled me aside later. "You've earned this," she said, handing over an updated org chart. My name now sat higher. Strategic Operations Director in bold. No fanfare, just recognition. But the promotion stirred something deeper, an emotional release. The uncoiling of years of being overlooked. I thought back to that first insult, the casual dismissal. It had lit a fire, a slow burning, now blazing into change. Yet, doubts crept in during quiet moments. Was this revenge? Or justice? The line blurred in corporate shadows. As I worked late that night, revising forecasts, the building empty save for the hum of servers, I felt the weight of it all. Power wasn't about volume, it was about precision, about wielding truth like a scalpel. Mark's downfall wasn't my doing, it was his own hubris reflected back. But the aftermath left scars, invisible ones, on everyone involved. The following week brought the first test of my new role. A major client threatened to pull out, citing the same confusion from Mark's old initiatives. I dove in, coordinating with teams, auditing logs, proposing fixes. We turned it around in 48 hours, retention secured, trust rebuilt. Emails poured in. Thanks, Alex, game changer. The praise felt earned, not empty. But amid the wins, I remembered Mark's face in that final glare, broken, human. It humanized the drama, added layers of empathy to the triumph. Corporate life was a battlefield of egos, but victories came at a cost. As the days blurred into routine, the office transformed. Collaboration flourished without the toxic undercurrents. I mentored juniors, sharing the lessons I'd learned the hard way. Listen more than you speak. Let data lead. Never assume. One evening, walking past the conference room where it all began, I paused. The table gleamed under the lights, just as I'd left it that fateful day. A smile tugged at my lips, not smug, but satisfied. The spring had uncoiled, the explosion contained, leaving clarity in its wake. Months passed, and the echoes of Mark's exit faded into office lore, a cautionary tale whispered over lunches. Remember that guy who thought he was untouchable? They'd say. Shaking heads. I focused on the rebuild, implementing safeguards, training teams on compliance, turning potential pitfalls into strengths. But life has a way of circling back. One afternoon, an email from an unknown address popped up, Mark's personal account. We need to talk, it read. Curiosity piqued. I agreed to meet at a neutral coffee shop downtown, away from prying eyes. He looked different, hair unkempt, suit rumpled, the cocky swagger deflated. We sat across from each other, steam rising from our cups like unspoken regrets. Why'd you do it? He asked, voice low, edged with bitterness. I stirred my coffee slowly. I didn't do anything to you.
Mark.
I presented facts. He leaned in, eyes flashing. Facts? You buried me with that report. Ruined my career. The accusation hung heavy, stirring old emotions, the sting of his initial slight, the slow burn of injustice. But I kept calm. Your choices buried you. Bypassing protocols, ignoring warnings. It caught up. He deflated, staring into his cup. I thought I was building something big, cutting corners to get ahead. The silence stretched, charged with vulnerability. For the first time, I saw beyond the arrogance, a man driven by pressure, fear of failure. We all make mistakes, I said softly. But owning them is what separates leaders from pretenders. He nodded, a flicker of understanding crossing his face. We parted without animosity, a quiet truce in the war of egos. It left me reflective, the emotional layers deepening. Was redemption possible? Or did some scars define us? Back at work, challenges mounted. A merger loomed, bringing scrutiny from above. I led the integration team, navigating politics with the same quiet precision. Doubts from new execs echoed Mark's old assumptions. Who's this guy? They'd whisper. But data silenced them, slide after slide proving my worth. One night, working late, I felt the isolation of leadership, the weight of decisions, the loneliness at the top. Emotions swirled, pride in my rise, sorrow for the collateral damage. A breakthrough came during a tense board call. Pushback on my cost-cutting plan was fierce. Too aggressive, they argued. I countered with projections, client testimonials, risk assessments. The room fell quiet. Then approval. Victory tasted sweet, but tempered by empathy. I'd been the underdog now. I ensured others weren't overlooked. As the merger closed, celebrations ensued, a company party in a swanky venue overlooking Lake Michigan. I mingled, but thoughts drifted to beginnings. That boardroom wiped down. the catalyst for change. A junior approached, nervous. Thanks for the mentorship. Alex, you've changed things here. His words hit deep, a reminder that impact rippled beyond revenge. The night air cooled my skin as I stepped outside, the city lights twinkling. The story wasn't over, it evolved, laced with human frailty and resilience. With the merger sealed, the office buzzed with new energy and new tensions. Integrated teams clashed, old habits dying hard. I mediated, drawing on lessons from Mark's fallout. Transparency over bluster, collaboration over ego. But shadows lingered. Rumors surfaced of Mark landing a new gig, spinning his exit as a strategic move. It irked me, the rewrite of history, but I let it go. Focus on the present. A crisis hit mid-quarter, a data breach traced to legacy systems Mark had championed. Panic ensued, clients furious, regulators circling. I assembled a war room, working round the clock to contain it. Emotions ran high, fear of fallout, anger at past negligence. How did this slip through? Laura demanded. Unchecked pilots, I replied, echoing old reports. We patched, communicated, turned disaster into a fortified future. In the midst, personal toll mounted. Sleepless nights, strained relationships, my partner worried about the burnout. You're carrying too much, she'd say. It forced reflection. Was this power worth the isolation? The answer came in small wins, a client's thank you, a team's breakthrough. Balance emerged, boundaries set. Mark resurfaced unexpectedly at an industry conference in Vegas. We crossed paths at a panel on corporate ethics. His talk glossed over failures, touting lessons learned. Afterward, he approached. No hard feelings? I shook his hand.
None.
Learn from it. The exchange closed a chapter, emotions settling into acceptance. Back home, I mentored more, fostering a culture of respect. One day, spotting a new hire struggling with setup, I helped without fanfare, echoing my own start. Thanks, he said. No problem, I replied. The cycle broke, replaced by equity. As year-end approached, reviews glowed. My promotion to VP felt inevitable, but the real reward was the shift, an office where merit trumped appearance, where underdogs rose on merit. The annual report meeting arrived, full circle from that fateful day. I stood at the head, presenting growth metrics, retention up 22%, costs down 18%. Applause followed.
Genuine.
Laura pulled me aside post-meeting. You've transformed this place. I nodded, humbled. But questions lingered. At what cost? Mark's story haunted, a mirror to potential pitfalls. Life moved on. I balanced work with life, weekends hiking, evenings with loved ones. The emotional journey, from humiliation to empowerment, left me wiser, more compassionate. Years later, reflecting on it all, the core truth remained: true power whispers, doesn't shout. Assumptions crumble under facts, hubris falls to humility. What if we'd communicated earlier? Could Mark have changed? The ambiguity lingered, a moral echo. In the end, the office thrived, a testament to quiet strength. And me, I walked those halls with purpose, never forgetting the janitor's cloth that started it all, a symbol of unseen labor, unbreakable resolve. The story closed not with triumph's bang, but a thoughtful whisper. In the game of corporate chess, the patient player wins, but the humane one endures.